young and strength was mine. As young men do, I tried to find a dream. With a suntan body and a pair of jeans, the rattle and the roar of the big machines, I found my place with the snowy mountain scheme.
Never before, never after could I have experienced anything like this, what I call heroic time. But to live through that narrow corridor of history is, I think, a privilege which only very few people have had. And I consider myself one of those very privileged people who had, by some chance, the opportunity to share that experience.
I see a Land Rover lobbing into Lob's Hole, saw life with a laugh and lots of soul, the years I worked with a snowy mountain scheme. There was color, life and laughter, and to hell with the mornings after. We lived it up with a snowy mountain scheme.
Here, scores of thousands of men and women are seeking a wider future on British soil. Ample literature covering all aspects of Australian life is available.
In the end of 50s, a lot of magazines and newspapers had advertisements in there. And they all said, Australia is calling, Australia is calling. So, of course, we were young fellows, said, let's go to Australia.
We fronted up in Berlin at the immigration office. They interpreted their country to us, which to us looked like paradise. There were these magnificent beaches. There were these lovely kangaroos and wheat fields. Look, half my life I was starving until I came to Australia. And seeing all that, I mean, how could you refuse it?
Today, migrant ships are bringing new settlers to Australia. New lifeblood for our young country.
Suddenly come later and they say, well, in 5 days you're going. That's it. We had nothing. At that stage, being in camps, we had mattresses, few blankets and few clothes. After war, we had nothing.
The Snowy came to Bonegilla, to the immigration camp, and collected about 20 of us. But of course then they told us, snowy mountains, like in Europe. And of course when we came to Cooma, I asked, how far to Cooma? This is Cooma. I said, where's the mountains? This is only like foothills, you know, not even mountains.
When we come to Cooma, somebody picked us up, put us on a truck. There was no bus. And they brought us to Jindabyne. There was open paddock, absolutely nothing. No camps, nothing. And we said, well, we're going to sleep. Somebody come in and said, don't worry. About in afternoon, truck come in with the tents and few blankets. And we start building a camp for a night to sleep.
When we saw the Snowy River up in the Gattaga area, it wasn't any water there. Because arriving up there, summertime, so it was already dry. So we looked at each other and we said, going to build a power station for 60,000 kVA? Where is the water for it?
Quasi quasi non si poteva arrivare proprio lassù a Epitech perché era chiuso dalla neve, nevicava. La casa piccola, vuota, scuoteva così dal vento e in giro al battiscope c'era il ghiaccio. E Giulio è andato al lavoro perché era ora di incominciare il turno del night shift. Mi sono messa tutte quelle 2 coperte che avevo messe doppie, triple sopra di me, giusto tenermi caldo, e ho aspettato che venisse Giulio la mattina. La mattina Giulio è arrivato, però non avevo una goccia d'acqua in casa, acqua non ne veniva perché era ghiacciato. Sono andata, è arrivato Giulio che neanche non l'ho conosciuto da quanto era sporco del lavoro. Comunque ha dovuto sciogliere l'acqua in una padella per lavarsi.
I happened to be skiing in Austria and I liked it very much. Then I was a governess in France and I thought, after this I'll go back to Austria. But I told my father and he said, come home, because he said there's snow in Australia. And so I rang them up and they said, yes, come. And we're desperately, everything's go, and we need you in the drawing office, and I went. I became head of the tracing pool, so my job was to train any new girls and sort of supervise the work, and we traced the engineers' drawings, before they went out as plans.
The first time I addressed people outside the employment office, there must have been about 400 of them, and I was a bit frightened, but it went all right. And the next morning the buses went out.
I recall you as being almost the mainstay in the employment office because of the fact that you had the ability to speak all these languages and to communicate with the people who were not able to express themselves in English, and just to see their faces light up when you spoke. And some of these people used to wait up there dressed in their street clothes, Italian handmade shoes, but no money at all, and sleeping on the ground until they could get a job. Because as soon as they got the job, they were right.
Well, I know when Jan and Alex came down from Cowra, they had advertised for carpenters, and so they rushed down and bought some tools, and then they went down to the library and got a book out on carpentry and sat up half the night reading about carpentry. And then when they asked how many carpenters, they put up their hands, and so they were taken on. But the foreman was very generous. He came up to Jan and he said, I don't think you're a carpenter. And Jan said, no. And he said, never mind, I can see you're going to be a hard worker. I'll take you on.
I fronted up at the engineer's office, I can't remember his name, and he said, yes, we need chainmen. I didn't have a clue what a chainman was, whether you would have a chain on your leg and it wasn't that sort of chain. No. My job would be to help the surveyor do his business. We drove with the jeep as far up as we could, and the rest was climbing up the mountains and chopping trees. We held, of course, the famous stick with the divisions on it, and he said left or right. And he did the measuring, and I did only the workers' work. But it was a manly job, and it was a rewarding job, because all